The cantina on Kelzar's Rest smelled like cheap alcohol and desperation, which was exactly what Vrax expected from a place that catered to the worst scum in 3 sectors. The Kresh mercenary sat in the corner booth, his forearms folded across his scarred chest as he watched the entrance with eyes that had seen 1,000 kills. He was drinking something that would poison most species. But for a Kresh, it was barely stronger than water. The 3 Thelen who walked through the door were young and stupid, which was obvious from the way they carried themselves like they owned the station Brax. He'd killed Thelen before, and he knew their species was naturally arrogant. But these 3 took it to a new level. They wore mismatched armor that looked expensive, but showed no signs of real combat. The kind of gear bought with inherited money rather than earned through blood. The leader had bright blue skin markings that indicated high birth among his people, and his 2 companions flanked him like they were protecting royalty rather than walking into a den of killers. They approached Vrax's table without asking permission, and the blue-marked one slid into the seat across from him with a smile that showed too many teeth. "You are Vrax the Reaper," the Thelen said. And it was not a question. Vrax took another drink and said nothing. The young Thelen did not seem bothered by the silence and continued talking like they were negotiating a business deal rather than hiring someone to commit mass murder. "We have a proposal that will make you very rich," he said, spreading his hands on the table. "We have located a convoy of soft targets with minimal security and a cargo hold full of valuable goods." Vrax still said nothing, watching the Thelen with the same expression he might give to an insect. The other 2 Thelen shifted uncomfortably, but their leader pressed on the convoy scheduled to pass through the Sagari's belt in 5 cycles. He continued, "Our intelligence indicates only to escort ships. Both outdated models, the cargo vessels, are carrying agricultural equipment, medical supplies, and most importantly, refined metals worth millions of credits." He leaned forward like he was sharing a secret. "We split the take 60-40, with you taking the larger share for your expertise and firepower. All you have to do is help us take the ships and eliminate any witnesses." Vrax finally spoke, his voice like gravel grinding together. "What species?" The blue-marked Thelen blinked in confusion. "Does it matter?" he asked. "We are offering you a fortune for a simple raid." "What species?" Vrax repeated, and this time there was something dangerous in his tone that made the other 2 Thelen reach for their weapons. The leader waved them off and answered with obvious reluctance, "Human." He said, "It is a human colony convoy, but that should not be a problem for someone of your reputation." Vrax set down his drink with a thud that made the tables shake. No, the single word hung in the air like a death sentence. The blue-marked Thelen laughed, but it sounded nervous. "No?" he repeated. "Vrax the Reaper, who has slaughtered entire crews and left no survivors, who has raided diplomatic vessels and sold ambassadors to slave markets, who has a bounty on his head from 12 different governments, is saying no to an easy payday." Vrax stood up, and even though the Thelen were not small, the Kresh towered over them with his massive frame. "I have 3 rules," Vrax said, holding up 3 of his 4 hands with 1 finger extended on each. "Never betray a contract, never leave witnesses. Who can identify you? Never attack humans." The Thelen stared at him like he had suddenly started speaking a different language. "You are joking." The leader said, "Humans are weak. They have no natural weapons. Their bodies are fragile compared to most species. Why would the most feared mercenary in known space be afraid of humans?" Vrax leaned down until his face was level with the Thelen's, close enough that the young fool could smell the kill scent that all Kresh carried. "I did not say I was afraid." Vrax growled. "I said I will not attack them. There is a difference." He straightened up and gestured around the cantina, where various criminals and killers were pretending not to listen, while hanging on every word. "Ask anyone here who has survived more than 5 years in this business. Ask them about humans. Ask them why every professional avoids human targets like they are carrying a plague." The blue-marked Thelen looked around and saw that several of the cantina's patrons were nodding or looking away uncomfortably. One Skardvathian pirate actually got up and left when she heard the word human. "This is ridiculous," the Thelen leader said. But his voice had lost some of its confidence. "You are all cowards hiding behind superstition." Vrax sat back down and picked up his drink. "Then hire someone else." He said, "There are plenty of young, brave fools who will take your money. Just make sure you write your will before you go." The Thelon stood up, his face darkening with anger. "We will find someone with actual courage," he said, "and when we return, rich beyond measure. You can explain to everyone how the great Vrax." The Reaper was too scared to take easy prey. He stormed out with his companions following. And the cantina was silent for a long moment after they left. Then a Grimorian smuggler at the next table leaned over and said quietly, "How long do you think they have?" Vrax finished his drink 3 cycles. He said, "Maybe 4, if they are very lucky." The smuggler nodded sadly. "Should we warn them?" Vrax signaled for another drink. "I just did." He said they chose not to listen. The bartender, a 6-armed Pelthan who had run this establishment for 20 years, brought Vrax a fresh glass and shook her head. "Young ones never listen," she said. "They think the old stories are exaggerations. They think we are all just afraid of human military tech or their numbers." Vrax picked up the new drink. "They do not understand," he said. "It is not about technology or numbers. It is about what humans are willing to do when you hurt them." An old Kresh warrior at the bar, missing one arm and covered in scars, spoke up. "I saw it once," he said. And everyone turned to listen because old warriors who survived were rare. "I was young and stupid. Part of a crew that hit a human medical transport. We thought it would be easy. Just doctors and nurses. We killed 3 humans in the initial attack." He took a long drink. "That was 30 years ago." He continued, "Every single member of that crew is dead now. The humans hunted us for decades. They did not stop when we scattered. They did not stop when we paid blood money. They did not stop when we hit on neutral worlds. They found every single one of us, and they made sure we died hard. I only survived because I was in prison when they came for my crewmates. And by the time I got out, I had learned my lesson." The cantina was completely silent now. "So yes," the old warrior said, looking at where the Thelon had been sitting, "those young fools are already dead. They just do not know it yet." Vrax nodded slowly and raised his glass to the dead. He said the entire cantina raised their drinks in response to the dead. They echoed outside. On the docking platform, the 3 Thelon were already talking to another crew, a group of Harkin pirates who looked desperate enough to take any job. Vrax watched them through the cantina's grimy window and felt something almost like pity almost. But in this business, you learned quickly that stupid had a price, and the Thelon were about to pay it in full. Hit pulled up his personal datapad and made a note to monitor the news feeds from the Sagaris. Belt in a few cycles. There would be a story about a failed pirate attack, about humans responding with overwhelming force, about criminals who thought they could get away with easy prey. Was always the same story. The only thing that changed was the names of the dead end somewhere. In the vast network of killers and criminals that spread across the galaxy, another message would spread, another warning that everyone would hear, but that young fools would ignore, never attack humans. It was a death sentence. Finished his drink and ordered another. It was going to be a long few cycles. The convoy moved through space like a slow river of metal and hope. 5 massive cargo vessels surrounded by 2 aging escort frigates that had seen better days. New Savannah was a young colony, barely 10 years old. And everything about the convoy showed the optimistic desperation of humans trying to build a new home on the edge of civilized space. The cargo holds were full of farming equipment, medical supplies, construction materials, and 1,000 other things that colonists needed to survive. Commander Jessica Torres stood on the bridge of the lead escort frigate, the Defiant, and watched the sensor displays with the tired eyes of someone who had been on patrol for too long. She had argued against this route, saying they should take the longer path through more secure space. But the Colony Council had overruled her because fuel was expensive and the budget was tight now. They were 4 days into a 6-day journey through the Sagari's belt, and everything was quiet to quiet. "Commander," her sensor officer said, breaking the silence, "I am picking up multiple contacts, dropping out of faster-than-light travel distance. 200,000 kilometers," and closing. Torres felt her stomach drop. "How many?" 7, the officer said, his voice tight. No. Wait, 9 contacts? Configuration matches? Known pirate vessels? Torres. Hit the alert button, and the Defiance bridge exploded into activity battle stations. She ordered, get the convoy into defensive formation, broadcast distress. Signal on all frequencies. The second escort frigate, the Vigilant, moved to position. As the cargo vessels tried to cluster together like frightened animals, Torres knew it would not matter. 9 pirate ships.
Out?
It was an execution, Commander. They are jamming our communications. The communications officer reported, I cannot get a signal out past 10,000 kilometers. Keep trying, Torres ordered. Even though she knew it was useless, the pirate ships came in fast. Their weapons already charging. Torres recognized the formation and cursed under her breath because whoever was leading this attack knew what they were doing. All weapons free, she ordered. Target the lead ship and fire everything we have. The Defiant's ancient railguns opened up, sending solid projectiles screaming through space at a fraction of light speed. 2 shots struck the lead pirate vessel, but its shields absorbed most of the damage. Then the pirates returned fire, and the universe turned into chaos. The Vigilant took the first hit, a plasma torpedo that punched through its forward shields and tore into the hull. Torres watched in horror as the ship listed to the side, venting atmosphere and debris. Vigilant is not responding. Our communications officer said, I think they lost their bridge. Torres wanted to scream, wanted to cry, wanted to do anything except watch her people die. But she was a commander, and commanders did not have that luxury. Continue firing, she ordered. Protect the convoy, but it was already too late. 3 pirate ships broke past the escort frigates and fell on the cargo vessels like predators on proa. The cargo ships had no weapons, no shields worth mentioning, and nowhere to run. One by one they were disabled, their engines blown apart by precise shots that left the rest of the ship intact. The pirates wanted the cargo, Torres realized, which meant they would also want hostages. A missile struck the Defiance port side, and the entire ship shuddered. Alarms screamed, and Torres tasted blood in her mouth from where she had bitten her tongue hole. Breach on decks 3 through 7. Someone shouted, we have lost main power to the forward batteries. Torres looked at her tactical display and saw that they were finished. The Vigilant was dead in space. The convoy was captured, and the Defiant had maybe minutes before the pirates decided to stop playing with them. All hands, she said into the shipwide communication system. This is Commander Torres. Prepare to repel boarders. We are not giving up the Defiance. Crew responded with a ragged cheer that made Torres feel proud and heartbroken at the same time. Then she noticed something on her sensor display that made her freeze. One of the cargo ships, the smallest one, was moving not toward the pirates or away from them, but perpendicular to the battle, slowly drifting toward the edge of the pirate jamming field. Is that the courier ship? Torres asked. Her sensor officer checked his display. Yes, Commander. The Swift Runner, registered as a light cargo hauler, but configured for fast communications. Torres felt something like hope bloom in her chest. Can they make it out of jamming range? Maybe. The officer said, the pirates are focused on us and the main convoy. If the Swift Runner stays on low power and drifts instead of using engines, they might not notice until it is too late. Torres pulled up the communications channel to the Swift Runner. Using a tight beam transmission that the pirates would have trouble intercepting. Swift Runner, this is Commander Torres of the Defiant. Get out of jamming range and broadcast our distress signal. Do not stop. Do not turn around. Just run and get the word out. The response came back immediately, defiant. This is Captain Chen of the Swift Runner. We are not leaving you. Shut up and follow your orders, Torres said, putting every ounce of command authority into her voice. It's the only way you can help us now is by getting that distress signal outrun. Captain, that is an order? There was a long pause. Then yes, Commander, good luck. Torres watched the Swift Runner continue its slow drift away from the battle, and prayed to God she did not believe in that. The pirates would stay distracted long. Enough. The Defiant took another hit, and the lights flickered. Commander, they are hailing us. The Communications officer said Torres straightened up and tried to look like a commander instead of someone who knew she was about to die. Put them on the view screen, flickered to life, showing a Thelan with bright blue skin markings, sitting in what looked like an expensive command chair. He was young and handsome and smiled like this was all a game. Human commander, he said, his voice smooth and confident. Your ship is defeated. Your convoy is captured. Surrender now, and I promise your crew will be treated well. Resist, and I will execute your people one at a time until you comply. Torres stared at him with cold eyes. Go to hell. The Thelans smile did not waver. I expected you to say that humans are so predictably defiant. Very well. Let me demonstrate that I am serious. The view screen split, showing the bridge of one of the cargo vessels. Torres recognized the ship's captain, an older man named Roberts who had 3 grandchildren back on New Savannah. Captain Roberts, the Thelan said cheerfully. Please beg the commander to surrender. Roberts looked directly at the camera, his face bruised but unbowed. Do not surrender, he said firmly. Get the word out. Torres, make them pay for this. The Thelan pulled out a pistol and shot Roberts in the head. Without changing expression, Torres heard someone on her bridge make a choking sound that was one. The Thelan said, I have over 300 humans in my custody. How many more will die because of your pride? Torres felt rage burning in her chest, hot and terrible. You just made a mistake, she said quietly. The Thelan laughed. What mistake? I hold all the advantages here. Your ships are destroyed, your people are captured, and no one even knows you are under attack. You are alone. Commander Torres looked at her sensor display and saw that the Swift Runner had crossed the jamming boundary. No, she said, we are not far away. Beyond the jamming field, Swift Runner's communications array lit up like a star. Captain Chen broadcast a single message on every frequency that human ships monitored. A message that would propagate through relays and networks faster than light could travel. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. This is the Swift Runner of Convoy New Savannah 7. We are under attack by pirate forces in the Sagaris Belt. Multiple casualties. Convoy captured. Coordinates follow. This is a human colony under attack. I repeat. Human colony under attack, the message repeated over and over. Burning through space with desperate urgency on the Defiance Bridge. Torres smiled at the Thelan like a wolf showing its teeth. You wanted to hunt humans, she said. Congratulations. Now they are going to hunt you. The Thelan's smile finally faded down on the surface of the captured cargo ship New Dawn. A young man named Marcus Chen hid in a storage compartment and listened to the sounds of pirates searching the ship. Marcus was a farmer. Had been a farmer all his life. First on Earth, and then on New Savannah, where he had helped build the colony's agricultural infrastructure. He had never fired a weapon at another living being. He had never wanted to, but as he listened to the pirates laughing about what they would do with their captives, as he remembered Captain Roberts, who had given Marcus his first job on New Savannah, something changed inside him. Something old and cold and absolutely merciless. Pulled out his personal datapad and started recording a message. His hands steady, despite the fear. This is Marcus Chen, colonist of New Savannah, he said quietly. If anyone finds this, if the pirates somehow win, I want you to know that we did not go quietly. I want you to know that we made them pay. He saved the message and then began looking through the storage compartment for anything he could use as a weapon. The pirates thought they had won. They were wrong. The distress signal from the Swift Runner hit human communication networks like a stone thrown into still water, and the ripples spread faster than anyone could have imagined than the heavy cruiser Retribution. Patrolling the border of human space 3 systems away from the Sagaris Belt, Captain Maria Santos was reviewing supply reports when her communications officer suddenly stood up from his station. Captain, we have a priority distress call, he said, his voice tight. Human colony convoy under attack. Santos dropped her datapad. Where? Sagaris Belt. Approximately 36 hours away at maximum burn. The officer pulled up the message details. Convoy New Savannah 7. Pirate attack. Multiple casualties. Convoy captured. Santos did not hesitate. Navigation. Plot a course to those coordinates. Engineering. I want maximum power to the engines, and I do not care if we burn out every system doing it. Communications. Broadcast our intentions and tell any human ship that can hear us to converge on Sagaris, her first officer, a veteran named Torres, no relation to Commander Jessica Torres. Looked at her with concern. Captain, we are supposed to be patrolling this sector. If we leave, the entire border will be undefended. We will be in violation of at least 6 different naval regulations. Santos looked at him with eyes that had seen too many battles. Lieutenant Torres, did you hear the part where I said human colony under attack? Torres nodded slowly. Yes, Captain. Then you understand that nothing else matters, Santos said. Not our patrol route, not regulations, not even our own safety. Those are our people, and they need us. She raised her voice so the entire bridge could hear. I am not going to lie to you, she said. We are heading into a situation where we are outnumbered and probably outgunned. Some of us might not come back. Anyone who wants to object can do so now without consequences. The bridge crew looked at each other, and then her weapons officer spoke up. Captain, the only question is whether we get there in time to kill the bastards ourselves, or if we have to share. The rest of the crew laughed. But it was the cold laughter of people preparing for violence. Helm. Engage engines, Santos ordered. Let us go get our people. The retribution turned and accelerated toward the Sagaris belt. And behind it, the border it was supposed to protect lay open and vulnerable, but Santos did not look back across human space. The same scene played out 100 times. The corporate security vessel Adamant, protecting a mining station in the Helio system, received the distress call, and the ship's captain made the same decision that Santos had made. We are leaving. Captain John Mick told the station administrator, but the station will be unprotected. The administrator protested. We have valuable equipment, irreplaceable resources. What if pirates attack while you are gone? Imbic looked at him with something like pity. Then you will learn what it means to be alone, he said, but those colonists are learning what it means to have family. I know which one I would rather be. The Adamant departed, leaving the mining station to fend for itself on a smuggler ship called Lucky Chance, somewhere in neutral space. A woman named Alina Park was in the middle of transferring illegal medical supplies to a buyer when her ship's computer flagged the distress signal. Elena was not a good person by most definitions. She had smuggled weapons, drugs, and even people. When the price was right, she had bribed officials, falsified documents, and broken more laws than she could count. But when she saw that distress call, when she saw those words, human colony under attack, she pushed her buyer away from the cargo hold. Deal is off, she said. The buyer, a Vorian trader who had paid good money for those supplies, protested angrily. We had an agreement, he said. I have already transferred half the credits. Alina walked to the ship's airlock and opened it, letting the station's atmosphere rush in, then consider it a very expensive lesson. She said, get off my ship. The Vorian left, still protesting, and Elena closed the airlock behind him. She jettisoned her illegal cargo into space, not caring about the fortune she was throwing away then. She plotted a course for the Sagaris belt and pushed her engines to the Limiton, the prison transport vessel Justice served, carrying 200 of humanity's worst criminals to a maximum security facility. The warden received the distress call and made a decision that would probably end his career. He went down to the holding cells and addressed the prisoners over the intercom. I am offering you a deal, he said. We have a colony under attack. Anyone who volunteers to help rescue them will have 10 years removed from their sentence. You will be given weapons and armor, and if you survive, you will receive full pardons for any crimes committed during the rescue. The prisoners looked at each other in disbelief. One of them, a murderer named Kane, who had killed 17 people in a bar fight, spoke up. What is the catch? The catch is that you are probably going to die, the warden said. Honestly, the pirates have captured the convoy, and we are going to take it back. But those are our people out there, and right now, we need every gun we can get, Kane laughed. But there was no humor in it. So you are asking us to go die for people we do not even know. I'm asking you to be human, the warden said. There was a long silence. And then Kane stood up. I am in, one by one. Every single prisoner in the hold stood up and volunteered. The warden began unlocking cells in Kelzar's rest station. Vrax the Reaper sat in his usual booth and watched the news feeds with growing amazement. His datapad was tracking every human ship within 10 systems of the Sagaris belt. And the numbers kept climbing: 20 ships, 30 ships, 50 ships. They were coming from everywhere, abandoning patrols and contracts and safety to converge on a single point in space. Some were military vessels, but most were not. Cargo haulers with improvised weapons, private yachts with militia cruiser van, medical ships that had no business in a combat zone. They are all going, the Pelton bartender said, watching the same feeds. Every human ship that can reach Sagaris is heading there. Vrax pulled up a historical file he'd been compiling for years, a collection of every recorded incident where humans had responded to an attack on their own. The pattern was always the same: the overwhelming response, the complete disregard for cost or consequences, the absolute refusal to stop until every attacker was dead. This is why we do not attack them, Vrax said. More to himself than to the bartender, this is what they do on the edge of the cantina. A young Grimoire pirate who had been listening to Vrax speak earlier approached the table nervously. I do not understand, he said. They are abandoning their positions, leaving themselves vulnerable. They are risking everything for a convoy that is already lost. Why? Vrax looked at him with ancient eyes. Because they are human, he said. They do not calculate costs like we do. They do not think about whether the response is proportional or reasonable. Someone hurt their people, and that means someone is going to die. He pulled up footage from a previous incident, a case from 20 years ago where a human research station had been attacked. Watch this. Vrax said the footage showed what happened after that attack. Hundreds of human ships converging, the attackers trying to flee. Humans hunting them down one by one, following them across neutral space, ignoring diplomatic protests, pursuing them for months until every last attacker was dead. They hunted them for 8 months. Vrax said 8 months of non-stop pursuit. They spent more money on the hunt than the research station was worth. They lost ships, they lost crew, they made enemies. But they did not stop until it was finished. The young Grimoire watched the footage with growing horror. That is insane, he whispered. That is human. Vrax corrected back on the prison transport justice served one of the prisoners, a woman named Sarah, who had been convicted of multiple counts of assault, asked the warden a question as he handed out weapons. Why did you choose us? She asked. You could have just left us locked up. Saved yourselves the risk. The warden looked at her seriously. Because those people out there did not choose to be attacked, he said. But you were choosing to help them. That makes you better than the pirates. No matter what you did to end up here. Sarah checked her rifle and smiled grimly. Let us hope that is enough across human space. The message continued to spread. Every human who heard it felt the same thing: a cold fury, a need to respond, a genetic memory of what happened to tribes who did not protect their. Ansem called it pack mentality. Otters called it madness. The humans called it family, and they were coming, all of them. Swift Runner continued broadcasting its distress call, and Captain Chen watched his sensors with satisfaction as more and more human ships appeared at the edge of his detection range. He had grown up on Earth, in a small town where everyone knew everyone, where an attack on one person was an attack on all. New Savannah was bigger now, spread across multiple worlds, but the principle was the same in the Sagaris belt. The Thelon pirate leader, whose name was Kelron, watched his own sensors with growing confusion and then fear as human ships began appearing at the edge of the system. At first, it was just 2 or 3 ships, then 10, then 20. Where are they all coming from? His second-in-command, Askad did not have an answer. He pulled up the data on the convoy they had attacked and felt his blood run cold. Convoy had been worth maybe 3 million credits. The human fleet gathering at the edge of the system represented billions of credits in ships and equipment. Response was insane. The human fleet arrived at the Sagaris belt like a storm made of metal and fury. And they did not bother with warnings or negotiations. Captain Maria Santos stood on the bridge of the Retribution and looked at the tactical display showing the captured convoy, surrounded by pirate ships' communications, broadcast on all frequencies. She ordered. Her communications officer nodded and opened the channel. "This is Captain Maria Santos of the human vessel Retribution," she said, her voice cold and level. "You have attacked human civilians. You have taken hostages. You have 10 minutes to surrender yourselves and release all prisoners if you do not comply. We will destroy you on his command ship." Kelrin listened to the message and laughed. But it was a nervous sound. "They are bluffing." He told his crew, "Count the ships." "They barely outnumber us." His tactical officer pulled up the numbers. "Sir, we have 9 combat-capable vessels. They have 17 military ships and approximately 30 civilian vessels with improvised weapons, but our ships are newer, better armed." Kelron nodded, trying to convince himself. "And we have hostages." Said they will not risk their own people. He opened a channel to the Retribution Captain Santos. "I am Kelron of the Free Traders Coalition," he said, using the polite name that pirates call themselves. "We do have your people. Over 300 humans if you attack. We will execute them, but if you let us leave peacefully, we will release them unharmed." There was a long pause, and Kelron allowed himself to hope. Then Santos responded, and her voice was like ice negative. She said, "You attacked humans. The penalty for that is death. You have 9 minutes." Kelron felt fear wash over him for the first time since the attack began. "You would sacrifice your own people?" He demanded. "You would let them die rather than let us go. We would sacrifice anything to make sure you do not do this again." Santos said, 7 minutes. Kelron looked at his crew and saw his own fear reflected in their faces. "They are insane." His second officer whispered, "They are human." Kelron said, and for the first time he understood what that meant. He had heard the warnings, the stories from old pirates about never attacking humans, but he had been young and arrogant and thought he knew better. Now he was going to die because of that arrogance. "All ships, prepare for combat," he ordered. "If we are going to die, we take as many of them with us as we can." But even as he gave the order, more human ships were dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. 20 more ships. 30 the civilian vessels looked like they had been cobbled together from spare parts. But they came anyway, armed with mining lasers and cargo launchers turned into improvised weapons. On one of those civilian ships, a former cargo hauler called the Steady Hand. Elena Park checked her weapon systems and smiled grimly. "This is suicide," her co-pilot said. "We are smugglers. Not soldiers today, we are both." Elena said she had spent 20 years running from the law, hiding in the shadows, doing whatever it took to survive. But when she heard that distress call, something in her had awakened something that said some things were more important than survival and the prison transport justice served. The warden had armed the prisoners and given them access to the ship's combat armor. Kane, the murderer who had killed 17 people, suited up alongside men and women who had committed every crime imaginable. "Strange day when I am fighting on the same side as the law," he said to the prisoner next to him. "Strange day when the law wants our help." The other prisoner replied. The warden addressed them over the intercom. "The convoy is surrounded by pirate ships," he said. "We are going to board them and take them back. Most of you will probably die, but if you survive, you go home free, and even if you do not survive, you will die as humans instead of criminals." Kane chambered a round in his rifle. "I can live with that," he said, "or die with it." The human fleet finished assembling, and Santos gave the order, "All ships attack." What followed was not a battle. It was a slaughter. But not in the way Kelron had expected. The human military ships hit the pirate fleet with precision strikes, targeting weapons and engines. Instead of going for killing blows, they disabled rather than destroyed, taking away the pirates' ability to fight or flee. But it was the civilian ships that terrified. Kelrunthi came in without regard for their own safety, ramming damaged pirate vessels, using their hull mass as weapons. A cargo hauler called the Mountain slammed into one of Kelron's escort ships, crushing its command deck and then continuing through to impact a second vessel. The Mountain's crew died instantly, but they took 2 pirate ships with them. "They are ramming us." Kelron's tactical officer screamed, "They are actually ramming us, a pleasure yacht. Some rich person's toy turned into a weapon." Accelerated toward Kelron's command ship. He tried to shoot it down, but the yacht dodged with surprising skill and crashed into his portside weapons Aratha. Impact killed everyone on the yacht and crippled Kelron's main guns. This is insane. Kelron shouted, "They are dying to kill us. They are human," his second officer said again. And this time, it sounded like a curse. The human military ships launched boarding pods toward the captured convoy vessels, and pirates scrambled to fortify their positions on the cargo ship New Dawn, where Marcus Chen had been hiding. The pirates set up defensive positions around the hostages. "The humans will not fire on us if we have shields made of their own people," the pirate commander said. He did not understand humans very well. The boarding pods crashed through the ship's hull in a dozen places, and combat teams poured out with weapons blazing. They wore armor marked with the symbols of a dozen different military units. Corporate security forces, and even civilian militia behind them, came the prisoners from justice served. Fighting with the desperate intensity of people who had nothing left to lose, Kane led a team through the corridors of New Dawn, killing every pirate he encountered with brutal efficiency. When they reached the cargo hold where hostages were kept, the pirate commander grabbed a young girl and held a gun to her head. "Stay back or I kill her," shouted Kane. Did not slow down. He shot the pirate commander through the eye from 30 meters away, and the girl scrambled free as the pirate fell. "Told you I was a good shot," Kane said to the warden over the communications link. "You killed 17 people in a bar fight." The warden replied, "But at least you did it for the right reasons this time." Marcus Chen emerged from his hiding place as the humans swept through the ship. He had found a piece of metal pipe and wrapped one end in tape to make a grip, which is not much of a weapon. But it was all he had when a pirate ran past him, fleeing from the human boarding teams. Marcus swung the pipe with all his strength. The pirate went down and did not get up. Marcus looked at his hands, at the blood on the pipe, and felt nothing. No guilt, no horror. Just cold satisfaction. The pirates had killed Captain Roberts, had threatened his home, had hurt his people. Now they were paying the price. The battle lasted 3 hours. And when it was over, not a single pirate ship remained. Operational, some had been destroyed. Some had been captured. But all were defeated. Kelron sat in his command chair and watched human soldiers breach his bridge. Captain Santos herself led the boarding team, and she looked at him with eyes that held no mercy. "You had a choice," she said. "Every pirate in the galaxy knows not to attack humans. You chose to ignore that warning. It was just a convoy," Kelron said weakly. "Just some supplies and colonists." Santos walked up to him and leaned down until they were face to face. "There is no such thing as just some humans," she said. "Every single one of them matters. Every single one of them has people who care about them. And every single one of them has the entire human race ready to avenge them." She straightened up and gestured to her soldiers. "Take him," as they dragged Kelron away. He saw through the view screen that more human ships were still arriving. 50 ships, now 60. They kept coming. More than could possibly be needed for a rescue operation. Why? Kelron asked Santos, "Why so many ships?" "You have already won." Santos looked out at the fleet and smiled. But it was not a kind smile, because we do not just want to win. She said, "We want to make sure everyone knows what happens when you attack us." Commander Jessica Torres was pulled from the wreckage of the Defiant. Injured but alive, her crew had fought until the last possible moment, and 11 of them had died defending the convoys. And found Torres in the medical bay and saluted Commander. "Your distress signal reached us," Santos said. "The Swift Runner got through." Torres smiled weakly. "How many did we lose?" "The Vigilant is gone." "All hands," Santos reported. "The Mountain, the Lucky Star, and 6 other civilian vessels were destroyed. Total casualties are 237 dead. 400 wounded." Torres closed her eyes. "So many they died protecting their own," Santos said. "And they made sure the pirates paid a much higher price on the surface of New Savannah, where the colony waited anxiously for news." The message finally came through. "This is Captain Maria Santos of the Retribution." The message said, "The convoy is secure. The pirates are defeated. New Savannah 7 is coming home." The colony erupted in celebration. But it was celebration mixed with grief. They had lost Captain Roberts and so many others. They had paid a terrible price, but they had also sent a message that would echo across the galaxy. Marcus Chen returned to New Savannah 3 days later, and 3 months after the Cigarettes Belt incident, the Galactic Council convened an emergency. session to discuss what they were calling the Human Problem Ambassador. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo sat in the human delegation chamber and watched as species after species stood up to condemn humanity's response to the pirate attack. The Vorian representative, a tall being with crystalline skin, spoke first. The human military abandoned strategic positions across 3 sectors, he said, his voice echoing through the council chamber. The response was disproportionate, excessive, and dangerous to galactic stability. We propose economic sanctions until humanity agrees to more reasonable rules of engagement. The Pelthon delegate stood next, her 6 arms gesturing emphatically. Human civilian ships attacked pirate vessels without proper military authorization. She said some of these civilians died in suicide attacks. This level of fanaticism is concerning to the entire galactic community. One by one, the delegates spoke, and their message was clear. Humanity's response had frightened them not because the humans had won, but because of how they had won. Dr. Okonkwo listened patiently, her hands folded on the desk in front of her. Her expression calm. She was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall. With gray hair and kind eyes, she looked like someone's grandmother. Not a diplomat representing one of the most dangerous species in the galaxy. When the last delegate finished speaking, the council chairman, a Grimorian elder named Keswick, turned to her ambassador Okonkwo. The council has heard serious concerns about human military doctrine, he said. How do you respond to these charges? Dr. Okonkwo stood up slowly, and the chamber fell silent. Thank you, Chairman Keswick, she said, her voice soft but carrying clearly through the room. I have listened carefully to all the concerns raised today, and I understand why you are frightened. She paused, letting that word hang in the air. You are frightened because we responded to an attack on our people with overwhelming force. You are frightened because we abandoned strategic positions to rescue a single convoy. You are frightened because civilians volunteered to die to protect other civilians. But let me tell you what frightens us. Her voice hardened slightly. We are frightened by a galaxy where pirates feel comfortable attacking civilian convoys. We are frightened by a galaxy where criminals think they can take hostages without consequences. We are frightened by a galaxy where the response to violence is to calculate acceptable losses and negotiate. For the return of survivors, she pulled up a holographic display showing the pirate attacked the pirates, who attacked convoy new. Savannah 7 were not unknowns. She said they had attacked vessels from 6 different species over the past 3 years. They had killed hundreds of civilians, and yet they operated freely because most species found it cheaper to pay ransoms than to hunt them down. The council chamber shifted uncomfortably. You want to know why humans respond the way we do? Dr. Okonkwo continued. It is because we learned a long time ago, back on our home world, that predators only understand one thing. They understand that attacking certain prey is too costly, too dangerous, too likely to end in their own death, so we made ourselves that prey. She pulled up footage from the battle, showing human ships ramming pirate vessels. You call this fanaticism? She said, we call it sending a message. The message is simple. Attack humans, and we will spend whatever it takes. Sacrifice whatever is necessary, and hunt you to the ends of the galaxy to make sure you regret it. The Vorian representative stood up. But the cost? He protested. You lost over 200 people rescuing 300 hostages. The economic resources you spent exceeded the value of the convoy by a factor of 10. How can you justify that? Dr. Okonkwo looked at him with something like pity. Because we do not calculate the value of our people's lives in economic terms. She said, every human life is priceless. Every human under attack deserves the full support of the entire species. That is not fanaticism. That is family. She turned to address the entire council. I understand. That seems excessive to you, she said, but consider the results before the Cigarras Belt incident. Human convoys were being attacked at a rate of approximately 12 per year after the incident. That number dropped to 0 pirates now avoid human vessels. The way most species avoid black holes, our response was not proportionate. It was preventative, the Pelthon delegate spoke up. But you're civilians. She said they died without proper military training. Without authorization, how can you allow that? Dr. Okonkwo smiled. But it was a sad smile. We do not allow it. She said we cannot stop it when the distress call went out. Those civilians made their own choices. Alina Park, a smuggler with a criminal record, abandoned a profitable deal to join the rescue. The crew of the cargo hauler Mountain chose to ram a pirate ship. Knowing they would die, 200 prisoners volunteered to fight for people they had never met. We did not order them to do these things. They did it because they are human. And humans protect humans? Chairman Keswick leaned forward. Ambassador Okonkwo, the council appreciates your explanation, he said, but we must still address the issue of proportionality. Galactic law requires that military responses be appropriate to the threat. Your response was clearly disproportionate. Dr. Okonkwo's expression hardened. Then let me be absolutely clear about humanity's position, she said. We do not recognize any law that limits our ability to protect our people. Attack us, and we will demonstrate that no cost is too high, no distance too far, and no treaty too sacred to stop us from responding. We are not the aggressors, but we are excellent at finishing what others start. She pulled up a star map showing human space and the surrounding sectors. Since we entered the galactic community 20 years ago, humans have been attacked 137 times, she said. Pirates, raiders, even a few species who thought we would be easy prey. Do you know how many of those attackers are still operating? The council chamber was silent. Zero, Dr. Okonkwo said, not because we are stronger or more advanced, but because we made a simple decision. Anyone who attacks humans will be hunted down and destroyed, no matter what it costs us, and we made sure everyone knew it. She looked around the chamber. You call it disproportionate, she said. We call it deterrence. It works. Human casualties from external attacks have dropped 98% since we implemented this policy. Our people are safer now than they have ever been. That is worth any cost. The Vorian representative stood again. But what about the pirates you killed? He demanded. Some of them were just following orders. Some were forced into that life. Do they not deserve mercy? Dr. Okonkwo's eyes turned cold. They attacked civilian vessels. She said they took hostages. They executed Captain Roberts, grandfather of 3, to prove they were serious. Where was their mercy? She paused, letting the question hang. We did not start this fight. She continued. The pirates made their choice when they decided human lives were worth less than cargo. We just made sure they understood the consequences of that choice. Chairman Keswick looked troubled. Ambassador, the council understands your position, said, but we must consider the precedent this sets. If every species responded to attacks with overwhelming force, the galaxy would be at constant war. The council needs assurance that humanity will act with restraint. Dr. Okonkwo was quiet for a long moment, and when she spoke, her voice was gentle but firm. Chairman, I cannot give you that assurance, she said, because restraint is not something we practice when our people are under attack. But I can tell you this: humanity has no interest in conquest or aggression. We do not attack other species. We do not raid their vessels. We do not take their people hostage. All we ask is the same respect. Leave us alone, and we will leave you alone, but hurt us. And we will make sure the entire galaxy learns what that costs. The vote came 3 hours later, and the motion for sanctions failed by a narrow margin. To many species remembered their own encounters with humans, their own attacks that had been met with overwhelming response. They were not willing to anger humanity over the fate of pirates. Who should have known better after the vote? The Pelthan delegate approached Dr. Okonkwo privately. You realize you have made enemies today, she said. Some species will see your refusal to accept limits as a threat. Dr. Okonkwo nodded. I know, she said, but I would rather be feared than have my people be victims. Our ancestors learned that lesson the hard way. Back on Earth, be nice until it is time to not be nice, and when that time comes, be absolutely terrifying. The Pelthan delegate studied her. You really would sacrifice anything to protect your people, would not you? Anything. Dr. Okonkwo confirmed. Everything, whatever it takes. Back on New Savannah, Marcus Chen stood at the memorial service for Captain Roberts and the others who died in the attack. The colony had built a monument, a tall pillar with the names of every human who had died during the rescue. 237 names from the battle, 11 names from the Defiance, crew 14 names from the convoy. Including Robert's Marcus, read each name carefully. Committing them to memory, he was wearing a uniform now. Having completed his training for the Colony Defense Force, he had learned to shoot. To fight, to kill he did not enjoy it, but he accepted it as necessary.